Let's get to the first story. TIFU by messing around and discovering a classmate is pregnant. For context, I am a med student in my second year of med school. Today we had a urine lab, and for the vote of confidence, my professor decided it would be much appropriate for everyone to bring their own urine. So everyone had their urine in front of them in the container, and we were doing several tests. Making slides, microscope, testing for glucose, RBCs, etc. so on the central table. So after doing all my tests and recording them in my journal, I thought it would be fun to mess around. There was a pack of pregnancy strips. I don't know why the hell these things were there in the first place. So I thought literally nothing and picked up the strips and started reading the leaflet. In the meantime, everyone was done and they saw me. I don't know why we all had the same idea, and all 15 students picked up a strip and mindlessly dipped it in the urine container. As expected, nearly all of them tested negative. All but one. I cannot describe the horror on that girl's face. Like, it was really horrifying. She just without thinking took another strip and tested again. Still positive. She ran out of the lab very visibly upset. Me and the other classmates were really awkwardly staring at each other and trying to understand what happened in this turn of events. TLDR had a routine urine lab in med school. Started messing around after getting work done. Everyone took a pregnancy test and one turned out positive. To the second story, TIFU by accidentally driving the wrong car. When I was in high school, my parents had a VW Golf and a station wagon. I had keys to both cars, although I normally drove the Golf because it was a GTI and a hoot to drive. Our local mall had the movie theater, arcade, and food court all near one particular entrance, which was normally my preferred place to park. On Saturday I didn't have much going on, so I got up, drove the station wagon to the mall, played some games, tooled around for a bit, hung out with friends, then got in my car and went home. When I got home, both my parents were gone, which was weird, but I thought, it's cool. I can watch what I want to on TV. So I grabbed a bag of chips and started watching some movies on HBO. About an hour or so into the movie I realized, hey, wait a minute, I didn't drive the Golf to the mall, but I drove the Golf home. Oh crap. I realized my parents had driven to the mall in the Golf and used the exact same parking area I used. When I got out of the mall, I must have seen the Golf, just got in it, and absent-minded driven home. My parents were still at the mall, had been for over an hour, which was a record for my dad, and I was certain my father was in the midst of calling the cops to report a stolen car. I jumped into the Golf, drove as quickly as I could back to the mall. Had my mother seen the way I drove, she would have killed me. By some miracle, the exact spot my parents had parked in was available. So I parked the car. I then walked the couple rows over and got into the station wagon and drove home. My parents came home like 30 minutes later. I asked them how the mall was, and my father started bitching about how my mother made him shop for a new bedroom set or whatever, but other than that, it was fine. I didn't tell them that story until I was into my late 20s. TLDR accidentally chose the wrong car, narrowly avoided disaster. On to the third story. TIFU by washing my underwear in the shower without having a plug in the drain. So from the title, you can probably see where I'm going with this. Disclaimer, I'm on mobile. Also, this happened a few hours ago, so the humiliation is definitely still here, baby. Hopefully, this doesn't violate Rule 4. I'll try to skirt around anything that could gross people out. However, if periods, in general, are not for you, then neither is this post. I live in a household where my dad packs the washing machine. I hang it out, and my sister folds. Now, before I get into it, I understand that this is a stupid thing to do. But whenever I get surprised by my period a few days early, or a tampon just doesn't do its job, I tend to give my underpants a bit of a scrub and soak in the shower so that my dad doesn't have to deal with the grossness that is period blood. And more importantly, so that I don't feel embarrassed lol. So anyway, tonight was one of those nights where my period decided to pop in and say hey a week early. So I definitely was not expecting any bloody accidents for a little while. Honestly, yeah, inconvenient, but nobody hey. Just chucked him into the shower, turned on the tap, and fiddled around in the bathroom while the water heated up. This will be fine, right? Ha ha, wrong. Duck up one. My sister and I share a bathroom. Both of us have long and thick hair. Therefore, taking out the plug and pulling out a mile of goopy hair is a highlight of the week we take turns enjoying. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that my sister had done this the night before and forgotten to put the plug back in. Fuck up too, I threw my underwear really far into the back of the shower and turned the water on full blast to make sure it heated up quickly. This meant that the sizable drain was more than able to slurp up a pair of my bloody underpants in the time it took me to take off my socks and bra. So I stepped into the shower, Thought aim strange, thought I threw some underwear in here. Then it hit me. The open drain. The water not going down said drain. The visible absence of any gray and pink undies in any part of the bathroom. It dawned on me the latest addition to the train wreck of stupidity that is my life. Frantically, I spent the next 10 minutes desperately shoving anything I could down the drain, trying to hook some part of those bastard pants to drag them back up. Then I used a plunger. Then, resigned to my fate, I got dressed and went downstairs to tell my dad what had happened. Luckily, he seemed pretty amused, not so amused when he saw how much a plumber was going to cost to fix it, and didn't make a big deal about it. So yeah, now my shower has to be pulled out and the pipes semi-removed so that we can retrieve the underwear that I so brilliantly decided needed a spa day. I'm just hoping that at least all the blood has been washed off. Oh, the Seal can expect another TIFU from me tomorrow about a plumber in my favorite bloody underpants. TLDR, idiot got a surprise period. Decided to wash underwear in the bathtub. Didn't notice the plug had been taken out, and now we need to pay for a plumber to remove my underpants from the realm of the pipes. Thanks for reading if you got this far, law. Now I'll be drowning in my humiliation while my lovely sister laughs at me. On to the fourth story. TIFU eating a college at a red light and nearly died. This morning, I was craving an iced latte from a certain donut place. So I got my husband's drink order and went on my way. When I got there, I suddenly realized how hungry I was and did not want anything sweet. So I added a college to the order. As soon as I got my order and pulled out of the drive-thru, I realized I am a huge asshole and did not even ask my husband if he wanted food. I couldn't rub my college in his face. I had to destroy the evidence. I decided I had to eat the college before I got home. Now, there is only a couple of miles between the donut place and my house, and I was running out of time. I get the mustard open, get a few bites down, and suddenly I'm at the last light before I turn on my street, so I just go for this massive bite. I don't know why. The light had just turned red, I had plenty of time, but in my gluttonous shame I shoved the rest of the college in my mouth. And it fucking lodged in my throat. I don't mean just a little bit. Zero air was getting to my lungs. I started freaking out. I have never seriously choked before. I am hitting my chest and my arms are flailing, and I am hoping the light will stay red because I'm in the front of my lane and there is no way I can drive at that moment. The door of the car across the very busy intersection opened, and I can see the driver looking at me like they are trying to figure out how to get across. At that moment I regained control of my arms and was able to shove my hand in my throat, which dislodged the college and made me puke all over my passenger seat. The light turned green, the other passenger got back in their car, and I got my breath back just in time and made it home. I'm still too embarrassed to tell my husband. I'm not sure I will. I just can't get over what a stupid way to die that would have been. And I still have to go clean out the passenger seat. TLDR, don't eat and drive. Now let's get to the fifth story. TIFU by impulsively hypothesizing why cadavers have gotten less expensive at a departmental meeting. I have just horrified my entire university department today. We were discussing potential hires for an anatomy and physiology position, and the conversation turned to our cadaver lab. We have the luxury of having a couple of cadavers each year, which is a selling point for a smaller undergraduate program. One colleague mentioned that maybe with the new hire, we could acquire more cadavers if the new hire's research needed it. Another chimed in that the price of cadavers through our supplier had dropped substantially, and that extra cadavers could be a real possibility. I impulsively hypothesized out loud that the supply due to COVID must be driving the prices down. I watched as horrified looks came over my colleagues' faces. I could not help but think about how this would reflect on me as a non-tenured faculty member. TLDR, I shocked my colleagues by suggesting that the cheaper cadaver price was due to COVID. Edit, thanks for the awards, but don't spend real money on this. A department is a diverse group with many folks who are not in the medical sciences, including myself, who is quite queasy and have never been in the cadaver lab. In fact, I am grateful that I don't need to sit in on the teaching demo. The meeting was over Zoom, and perhaps my perception of their reaction is colored by my own discomfort and horrification that I blurted out something that is insensitive to lose the country has experienced. I have no idea whether my hypothesis is true, as there has been discussion about whether cadavers can come from COVID deaths. There may be other contributing factors, fewer in-person classes, etc. On to the sixth story. TIFU by not turning on the kitchen light when having a midnight snack. Hi, so this happened at about 1 a.m. this morning, and I'm currently dealing with the aftermath. I habitually wake up about 1 or 2 in the morning and make my way to the kitchen for some sort of snack. I smoke quite heavily before bed, so when this happens I'm normally fairly stoned and half awake. Bit of background. I'm currently staying with my bubble, and the kitchen in this house has no door, just an archway. and a very, very bright ceiling light. Because the cats like to mix and match what housemate they're sleeping with. Everyone sleeps with their doors half open unless they have company, which obviously isn't a thing at the moment. The layout of the house is such that if I turn the light on in the kitchen, it ends up shining into the bedrooms, and I hate risking disturbing anyone, so I normally just use the light from the street lamps outside or the internal one in the fridge. I don't actually cook anything on the hob or in the oven, so the max I'm doing is chucking something in the microwave or dumping something on a plate cold, so it's never been an issue before safety-wise. I think I'll be getting a lamp for the kitchen after last night. I went downstairs, found some Cambozola cheese in the fridge, which is my favorite, and cut a bit off. I decided it was a bit too strong just by itself, and this is where I fuck up. I had bought some corned beef at the same time I'd bought the cheese, but I finished the corned beef a couple of days ago. I had been enjoying having both of these things at the same time, and the plate I normally used for this snack was a generic saucer. This is the same kind of saucer that one of the housemates uses to give the kitties cat treats if they're being a bit difficult about taking the treats from his fingers. In the very, very dim light, and I'd closed the fridge at this stage, I saw a saucer with a smooshy dark colored sort of pate thing on it. Looked exactly like corned beef in the extreme gloom. My stoned, half awake, the ravenous brain goes, oh, I didn't finish it, yay, and picks up the glob on the saucer. Turns out that when cat treats either get moisture on from sink splash or cat dribble, probably the latter. Knowing one of the boys, he's a fountain. It sort of goes into this mulch, which also has a very similar texture to corned beef. I ate 3 or 4 treats worth of soggy cat food in one go because, by the time my taste buds caught up with my chewing, it was too late. This was bad enough just experience-wise, but within a couple of hours, I was beginning to really feel like crap. Tummy going haywire, headache starting, feeling completely wiped. This is when I Google something I never thought I'd need to look up: is there gluten in cat treats? I found the cat treat brand, and yes, there's gluten, and yes, if you haven't guessed by my tone, I have celiac disease. I glisten myself with cat food. Pray for me. TLDR, I didn't turn the light on when having a stone middle of the night snack, which ended with me eating soggy cat food and setting off an allergic reaction, as apparently some kibble has weak gluten in it. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.